Homelander. If Superman stood for hope, Homelander is what happens when that hope curdles into horror. Draped in stars and stripes, smiling for cameras, he looks every bit the perfect American hero. But peel back the patriotic grin, and you find something far more terrifying. A god without conscience, a savior who sees humanity as insects beneath his boots. Born not of love but of science, Homelander was engineered in a lab, raised by corporations, molded by propaganda, and stripped of everything that makes a person human. He was taught to perform goodness, not feel it. That absence of empathy didn't leave a void. It became a breeding ground for pure narcissism. With powers that border on divine, super strength, flight, heat vision, invulnerability, Homelander could be the world's protector. Instead, he craves worship. Justice doesn't drive him. Adoration does. The moment anyone questions him, the hero becomes an executioner. His smile falters, his eyes glow red, and cities tremble. His crimes echo the nightmare of unchecked power, letting a hijacked plane full of innocent passengers crash to preserve his image, murdering teammates without hesitation, and manipulating the media to rewrite every atrocity into a headline of heroism. Even his own allies live in terror, abused, humiliated, or discarded when they cease to feed his ego. Homelander isn't merely a villain, he's a warning. Proof that the deadliest monster isn't the one hiding in the shadows, but the one standing proudly in the light, drenched in applause. His evil isn't chaos, it's control, the kind that demands you love your executioner. Joffrey Baratheon. Few rulers in television history inspire as much collective hatred as Joffrey Baratheon, the boy king whose crown was far too heavy for his head, yet perfectly suited to his cruelty. From the moment he ascended the Iron Throne, Westeros learned that immaturity mixed with power breeds only destruction. Born of incest and raised on entitlement, Joffrey was doomed before he ever ruled. His mother filled his head with delusions of grandeur, and the court bowed to him out of fear rather than loyalty. Every sneer, every tantrum, every command was a child's cry for validation, but delivered through the mouth of a tyrant. Joffrey's reign was a theater of sadism. He didn't simply punish enemies, he made spectacles of their pain. Watching Sansa Stark humiliated at his command wasn't strategy, it was sport. Executing Ned Stark wasn't justice, it was ego. Joffrey didn't crave power to lead, he craved it to watch others squirm beneath it. Yet beneath all the venom was a boy utterly terrified of losing control. Every act of violence, every outburst, masked the insecurity of someone who knew he hadn't earned an ounce of the authority he wielded. His cruelty was his armor, his arrogance a shield against the truth of his illegitimacy. And in the end, the poison that took him was almost poetic, a silent judgment from a world that had finally had enough. His death wasn't just vengeance, it was balance restored. Joffrey Baratheon remains a reminder that the worst kind of evil isn't born from ambition or ideology. It's born from immaturity handed too much power and never told no. Hannibal Lecter. Intelligence can be terrifying, but when paired with malice, it becomes monstrous. Hannibal Lecter embodies this truth. A brilliant psychiatrist, he moves through the world with charm, refinement, and a mind that sees others not as people, but as ingredients in his macabre designs. His descent into darkness began with trauma, a childhood scarred by war, witnessing the brutal death of his sister. Yet tragedy alone doesn't define him. It is the cultivation of superiority and the exquisite taste for violence that makes Hannibal unforgettable. He kills methodically, choosing victims based on perceived flaws, then turns the act into art, sometimes consuming them, always savoring control. What makes Lecter so uniquely horrifying is the calm he maintains amid carnage. He can lecture, dine, or debate while orchestrating terror, manipulating minds with surgical precision. He toys with FBI trainees, friends, and foes alike, guiding them toward madness while keeping his own hands seemingly clean. From psychological warfare to gruesome physical murders, Lecter transforms violence into a performance, elegant, horrifying, and utterly personal. He reminds us that the most chilling monsters aren't always visible. Sometimes they are polite, cultured, and seated across the dinner table. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. In the desert politics of Dune, few figures strike fear like Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. A man as grotesque in body as he is in mind, the Baron's obesity is only the surface of his excess. Beneath it lies a mind sharpened by cruelty, corruption, and the unquenchable thirst for power. Ruthless and calculating, he rules House Harkonnen with terror, weaving schemes that topple rivals and manipulate even his own family into instruments of his ambition. Nothing is off limits. Betrayal, murder, and the exploitation of the helpless all serve his ascent. The desert planet Arrakis bends to his will, its people enslaved, its resources plundered, all while he indulges in unspeakable personal pleasures. Harkonnen's genius lies not only in strategy but in his amorality. He sees humans as chess pieces, pawns to crush, bishops to manipulate, queens to betray. His nephew and heir become tools in his cruel games, trained in fear and obedience, molded to continue his legacy of tyranny. Baron Harkonnen is terrifying because his evil is unapologetic and total. There is no pretense of honor, no mask of civility, only the ruthless pursuit of domination, executed with a mind both brilliant and monstrous. Where others might stumble, he thrives, leaving a trail of suffering that is as deliberate as it is grotesque. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The Joker. There's madness, and then there's the Joker. Since his debut in Batman #1 back in 1940, the Clown Prince of Crime stood as the ultimate embodiment of chaos. A painted grin stretched over a mind consumed by anarchy. Beneath the makeup lies not just a criminal, but a philosophy. A belief that life itself is nothing more than one long, cruel punchline. Though his backstory has twisted through countless retellings, one of the most haunting versions paints him as a failed comedian whose desperate fall, both literal and psychological, began with a plunge into a vat of chemicals. What emerged from that acid bath wasn't merely a man disfigured by white skin, green hair, and a permanent smile, but a soul stripped of sanity and rebuilt around one idea. That meaning is a joke best told with blood. Unlike villains who crave money, revenge, or power, the Joker seeks something far darker, the unraveling of order itself. He commits atrocities not for gain, but for art, turning pain into performance. He wants to prove that morality is fragile, that with enough pressure anyone could crack and become just like him. His cruelty is legendary. He paralyzed Batgirl and tormented her father, Commissioner Gordon, in The Killing Joke, forcing him to confront horror as entertainment. He slaughtered Robin with a crowbar and left his body to burn, laughing at the tragedy he created. Each act is both murder and message, a declaration that sanity is the true illusion. What makes the Joker terrifying isn't his strength, but his unpredictability. He's a living embodiment of chaos. The laughter in the dark, the nightmare that wears a smile. To him, death is the punchline, and the world is his stage, Darth Sidious. In the sprawling galaxy of Star Wars, few names inspire fear like Darth Sidious. To the Republic, he was a calm, unassuming senator from Naboo, the very image of diplomacy and decorum. But behind that mask of civility lurked the ultimate architect of chaos, a Sith Lord whose patience and cunning rivaled the stars themselves. Sidious didn't seize power overnight. He orchestrated war, manipulated politicians, and exploited every weakness in the galaxy's institutions. The Clone Wars were his chessboard, and every battle, every tragedy, was a calculated move toward absolute dominion. His ultimate masterpiece, turning Anakin Skywalker, a hero of prophecy, into Darth Vader, the enforcer of his new order. Order 66 was his signature stroke of terror, a single command that extinguished the Jedi across the galaxy, leaving death and betrayal in its wake. Empires rose and fell under his shadow, and billions perished without a second thought. Unlike chaotic villains, Sidious doesn't revel in violence for its own sake. He weaponizes patience, fear, and manipulation to bend others to his will. Even in death, Sidious embodies menace. Through dark rituals and cloning, his thirst for control refuses to end, a testament to the Sith creed. Power is eternal, and so too is the darkness that wields it. Darth Sidious isn't merely evil. He's the architect of despair, a master of manipulation who doesn't just destroy his enemies, he reshapes the galaxy in his image, one calculated betrayal at a time. Voldemort. Some names strike fear even when whispered. Voldemort, born Tom Riddle, transformed from a brilliant, lonely orphan into the darkest wizard of his age. Raised in the cold, loveless corridors of an orphanage, he learned early that empathy was weakness and power, the only path to immortality. At Hogwarts, his genius became his weapon. Ambition, cruelty, and a desire to transcend death drove him to split his soul into multiple Horcruxes, committing acts of murder that ensured his survival at the cost of his humanity. Pure blood supremacy became his ideology, and anyone who opposed or defied him became a target of unrelenting terror. Voldemort's atrocities are legion. The slaughter of Harry Potter's parents, the targeting of innocent children, and a reign of fear that encompassed both the wizarding and muggle worlds. Manipulation, deception, and cold, calculated murder are his tools. Love, friendship, and compassion, mere vulnerabilities to exploit. He inspires fear not only through magic, but through the utter absence of humanity. His name alone, he who must not be named, is enough to bend minds in dread. Voldemort embodies the terrifying truth that the most dangerous villains are those who believe themselves untouchable, willing to sacrifice everything, including their own soul, for power. Gus Fring. In the sunlit world of Albuquerque, few men appear more respectable than Gustavo Fring, a soft-spoken businessman, philanthropist, and owner of the spotless fried chicken chain Los Pollos Hermanos. But behind that crisp uniform and calm smile hides one of television's most chilling monsters, a man whose precision makes his evil almost beautiful in its efficiency. To the public, Gus is the model of discipline and generosity. To the underworld, he's a ghost who commands an empire built on methamphetamine and murder. Every move is deliberate, every smile rehearsed, every word measured. Beneath that civility lies a man sculpted by grief and vengeance, forged the day his closest friend and partner, Max, was executed by the cartel. That trauma didn't break him, it sharpened him. From that moment, Gus stopped being human and became a machine built for revenge. What makes Gus so terrifying isn't loud brutality, it's the silence between his words. He doesn't rant, he doesn't rage, he simply calculates, then eliminates. When he slices Victor's throat with a box cutter, it's not done in anger. It's a lesson, a statement that control and fear are his tools of command. He kills children, rivals, and allies with the same composure one might use to pour a cup of tea. His empire runs like clockwork, clean and untouchable, while his hands appear spotless to the world. It's that duality, the kind face hiding a heart of steel, that makes him so unnerving. Gus Fring isn't chaos, his order twisted into evil, the nightmare that hides in plain sight, smiling at you from behind the counter. Griffith. Griffith is the kind of villain who makes you question whether evil is born from darkness or from dreams too bright to survive the light. At first, he isn't a monster, but a visionary. The leader of the Band of the Hawk, he inspires loyalty not through fear, but through charisma so magnetic it borders on divine. To his soldiers, Griffith isn't just a man, he's destiny incarnate. But ambition can rot even the purest ideal. Beneath the calm smile and silver armor lies a hunger without mercy, the desire to rise above the world, no matter who must fall beneath him. When his dream of ruling a kingdom begins to slip away, he makes a choice that severs him forever from humanity. The eclipse isn't just his ascension, it's his damnation. In a single horrifying act, Griffith sacrifices the very comrades who believed in him, offering their screams to the dark gods of the God Hand in exchange for rebirth as Femto. The scene burns itself into history, not for its gore, but for its betrayal. It is the moment a dream devours its dreamer. As Femto, Griffith becomes everything he once despised, a being of pure power, untouchable, inhuman, and utterly devoid of empathy. Yet even in his monstrous form, the tragedy lingers. He achieved his dream, but at the cost of his soul and the world that once loved him. Griffith's evil isn't mindless. It's elegant, deliberate, and painfully human, a mirror held up to anyone who's ever wanted greatness so badly, they forgot who they were on the way there.